Hi there, everyone. Roger Connect, president of Universal Accounting Center, and I'm excited to have with us Mitul Mehta, CPA. He's with Tax Profit Boss. That he is the tax profit boss, in fact. And this is going to be a fun discussion that we're going to have about his journey through the accounting profession and starting his own business as well. So, Mitul, thank you for being with us today.
Hey, Roger. Good to be here too.
This is going to be
so much for having me over.
Oh, yes. No, this is great. I've heard a lot about you, so I'm kind of excited to hear your story. So why don't we just start with the obvious? Share with me a little bit of how you got started into the accounting profession. What drew you to it and what was your beginnings?
Okay. So imagine a kid who basically, while growing up, loved playing with computers and numbers. Okay. But his parents were forcing this guy or this kid to become a medical doctor. That was pretty much me, right? So kind of like stereotype Indian person getting kind of pushed into becoming a doctor. But I wanted to play with computers. I wanted to build computers. My first computer I built myself was a ZX Spectrum. I don't know how many people remember that. Okay. It was back in 1986. And I wrote a program in BASIC, programming language called BASIC, to actually do addition and subtraction, which you and me probably could do in our heads. But I did that on a computer. So since then, as a 10-year-old, I was interested in kind of using technology and accounting together. And that's where it all started. I got a degree in accounting after that, but surprisingly went into technology. I actually was hired by Accenture Anderson Consulting back then at 19 years old to become a consultant. So in the technology field. So did that. And then after that, working with them for a while, decided, listen, accounting is truly what I wanted to do, accounting and business truly. And I went to MBA. I got a full scholarship at Southern Methodist University here in Dallas, Texas. And then I joined an M&A, merger and acquisition, and restructuring firm. That's where I got my practical knowledge in truly, how to kind of restructure businesses, how to grow businesses, how to merge businesses. And then after a while, my wife is a dentist, so she wanted to open up her practices, and it was natural for me to kind of just help her do that. Did that. We opened up 3 dental practices together. Decided, kind of figured out that I'm really good with numbers. I'm really good with technology. I'm really good with this healthcare thing. So I basically decided to open up an accounting practice, which is focused mainly on healthcare practices using a lot of technology. So that's what I do now.
That's amazing. So what's fun for me about this is you've shared, I think, something that a lot of the accounting professionals can relate to, which is early on, as young as 10, you were already identifying that you had this love or interest in numbers, and you were drawn to just that number field. You enjoyed the mathematics, the coding, and it kind of took you down that path to where you ultimately graduated with a degree in accounting. But what I found interesting is that your career path took you further and further down this road of then getting involved with mergers and acquisitions. And I think as accounting professionals, whether it be through that audit track or through the accounting firms, CPA firms, you start to get that exposure perhaps. And you got that merger and acquisition experience.
I did. And I what happened was one thing I was really, I was fortunate where I did not get pigeonholed when you typically go the accounting route. So I did not go the accounting route. I got I got an accounting degree right back in India, but then I got pushed into technology. So when I came out of technology and wanted to actually get into the accounting world, I did not get pigeonholed into doing audit, taxes, or those kind of basic stuff. I was actually doing stuff which a lot of our colleagues want to do that, right? Like they want to basically be involved in big deals, figuring out who wants to buy who and sell who wants, and kind of get involved in that. So I got that opportunity early enough, and a lot of my colleagues are they get pigeonholed into doing audit, right? They're always constantly doing audit. And then when they go into the real world, opening up their own practices, they kind of find it a little struggle that they don't get those kind of engagements. So I was fortunate enough, let's put it that way. I was fortunate enough that I could, I'm going to turn off my notifications, yeah. But I was fortunate enough that I could get into that field. So now I'm just continuing, like my practice now is focused more on, we do definitely basic accounting, taxes, payroll, everything, we do that. But then we've got 50% of my practice is doing consulting work, which is related to a lot of these mergers and acquisitions for healthcare practices, specifically dental. My wife's a dentist, so it's a very natural progression there. And that's how I got into that.
Yeah, what's funny for me about that story is so often working with business owners, I hear the proverbial story of the spouse has a great idea, wants to start a business. Hey, hun, can you help? Yeah, sure, great. How? Can you do the books for me? I mean,
Right.
you kind of live that story in that case.
You're right, exactly. And that's what it was. You and I kind of pushed her. She was very happy working for somebody else in a dental office. And I'm like, listen, I think you've got something more that you need to do. So I kind of pushed her a little more into the entrepreneurship route. And we got that done. And obviously I was the accountant.
That's wonderful. I'm glad you were that supportive. Sometimes spouses aren't as supportive as
No,
you
no,
were.
it
You
was,
were obviously pushing, so that's even better still.
no, it
So,
was,
so share with me something about that merger and acquisition experience that preceded you starting your own business, but
mhm.
gave you a love for that accounting side that you initially avoided when you got out of college with your degree, going the technology route. You got into the mergers and acquisitions. What was the
Yeah.
love that you all of a sudden found for accounting in that experience?
So I'll tell you an interesting story. So when I was in my merger, so I was an accountant by education, then got an MBA in finance, right? Finance was what everybody wants to do. Finance uh, is the sexier part of, like the management industry, right? Everybody wants to get to finance. So I was very similar, right? I wanted to get into finance, but then the accounting was always inbuilt in me. So what I did was I did a major in finance and I had a minor in accounting after graduating from MBA, like during graduating from business school. Once I got into my consulting role, which was mainly a finance-based role, what I did realize was that a lot of my colleagues who concentrated a lot on finance and operations or finance and marketing, me concentrating on finance and accounting, I had a little bit of an edge because I understood the books like nobody else did. They understood all the financial concept, which was great, which I had still understood. But then what happened was, like, sometimes we come up with these crazy financial concepts and crazy financial plans. Well, does the books actually support that? And I kind of got that advantage. So what I started realizing was, like, listen, these finance and accounting kind of go hand in hand together. It's not, one is not uh, isolated from the other. And soon I realized, okay, if I open up my accounting firm, it's going to basically be a marriage of the two. And that's what I do right now. Whenever we do financial deals, and sometimes these bankers, which I deal with right now, are amazed. It's like, okay, how do you understand so much finance? You're an accountant. And then I have to give them the same story. What I'm saying right now is like, how do I understand that? And that's where I kind of got my love for accounting is like, okay, yes, I tried to run, even though I like numbers and stuff, the accounting was never something which, like, nobody wants to say, hey, I'm an accountant, right? You're boring. That's what the number one thing when people say you're an accountant, you're boring, right? That's what number one thing comes. So I never wanted to tell her that. But once I got into this role at the M&A firm, I started realizing that, listen, accountants are really important. And if we can use the accounting data, especially in smaller businesses, if we can use the accounting data to make financial decisions, the potential is limitless. Right now, that doesn't happen, I feel. I just feel that people make a lot of decisions based upon gut.
So what I'm going to say, Mitul, is that you got your sexy back.
Well, thank you.
All right. So what I'm going to do then is I want you to share a story that now that you're doing this unique marriage of the accounting and finance, tell us some stories of maybe how you've helped and worked with clients to actually help them benefit from this marriage of services.
Sure. Classic example right now, I am actually dealing with a doctor who is acquiring another doctor. So she's a dentist and she's acquiring another dentist. The practice is $2.1 million in revenue, and we've got to merge them. Now, she's in an existing practice with another doctor she's not getting along with, okay? So we've got to figure out how can we structure that part. The bank's involved because the bank wants to give the loan on the new practice, but she's got an existing loan on the existing practice, which is with a different bank. Now, you can imagine banks don't like it when two different banks are involved, so they want to take over this bank, but then there's a partner involved. So I've been involved in negotiating and kind of putting up structures in place so that this deal can actually go through. So now we've figured out a way of how we are going to get her out of the other loan, get her into this brand new loan, and keep the partner happy. Even though they don't get along, like, okay, what kind of structures can we do? So we've kind of set up some internal arrangements. And that has to go with basically looking at their books, what they can afford, what the cash flow is like, and then can the new loan support that and the new cash flow support it. So that's a very recent example I can give you where I feel that if I didn't have my M&A background or the financial background, what I had, along with the accounting knowledge, it would have been difficult. I would have been a pure accounting guy, I just know how to look at the gap, generally accepted accounting principles, and that's about it. Versus kind of trying to figure out some creative ways, and not to mention the tax piece of it, right? Like, how does it work from a tax standpoint? Because in a bigger corporation, like where I used to work before, we had different departments: tax department, accounting department, finance department, marketing department. Versus here, a doctor who's doing $2.1 million in revenue, they've got an accountant, an attorney, and an office manager. That's about it. So we've got to be creative enough to make sure that between the three of us, we figured out a structure for the doctor to make this a win-win situation.
I love what you're sharing there, because a lot of accounting professionals are actually aspiring to do more and more of what you've just described, because they're moving beyond the accounting services that they're currently providing to want to offer now more consultative type services.
They have to. I don't think there's a choice, because the thing is, if you think about QuickBooks, right? They have their own whatever they call it, QuickBooks. I forget what it is. Something where they do their bookkeeping now for the clients for like $200 a month.
Yep.
We've got Bench, I think. Bench is another company which does robo bookkeeping. So there are all these things out there. Again, how accurate they are, we can talk about another day. But, I think if we don't differentiate ourselves, if we don't provide value to our clients, what they're looking for from a true advice standpoint, from a true decision-making standpoint, I don't think we're relevant anymore. So I feel that's definitely something which we need to all look at.
Yes, it's truly an evolution that's occurring right now within the accounting profession to move more and more away from just providing the historical data, the financial reports, and getting more into real-time data, if not future forecasting, budgeting, consulting, and so forth. So I like to describe that.
And one thing which I've kind of realized, and I don't know if this is out of context for this question, is not only this client, but any client, one thing, the number one reason what I found is when people were switching CPAs, two reasons. One was the CPAs would not respond back to them. I don't know what is with CPAs that they don't just like responding back. A simple email like saying, hey, I got your email, we'll get back to you, goes a long way. Literally goes a long way. That's one simple email, right? That's one. Two is my small business owners, and I deal with companies, my biggest client has $20 million in revenue, and that's probably 2 or 3 of those, and that's it. But majority of my clients are between $2 to $10 million or $1 million to $10 million in revenue. They're small businesses. They want to know how much money did they take home. That's what they care about. They don't care about a P&L. They don't care about a balance sheet. They don't care about a cash flow statement. That might as well Greek to them, right? So over a period of time, I kept on developing reports. First, I subscribed to all these fancy reporting software companies, and I used to give them like 10-page reports and stuff. And an oral surgeon came to me and says, Mitul, should I be looking at this? And that kind of told me, like, okay, this is useless. I'm just wasting my money. If somebody is asking me, should I be looking at this, I'm just wasting my money. So what I did is I went back to the drawing board. I actually created a simple report which could fit in their phone screen, okay, which could sit in their phones, fit in this phone screen, showing them exactly how much money did they make that month, how much cash money did they make that month. Meaning, if the bank account went up 50,000, how did the bank account go up 50,000? I kind of married those two things together, and guess what? He was like, "Dude, this is what I've been looking for ever, right? Why couldn't anybody just give me this?" And what more and more, he was just one person. And then I started implementing that in every client of mine. Every client, I got a positive response. Nobody asked me for those fancy reports what I was giving them. Everybody kept looking forward to this one, to the point that they would email me on the 15th saying, hey, so I would get this report right pretty soon. I was like, yep, you're going to get this report every month. So I think that was a big win for me, honestly speaking, using my consulting skills back, whenever I learned those, to kind of implement those in the accounting side of stuff.
What you've described there is, I think, very common, because a lot of the small business owners are overwhelmed, they're intimidated, in fact, embarrassed by their inability to read financial reports, the P&L, the balance sheet, the cash flow statement. And so what you did is you recognized, you heard that from your client, and because you were listening, you were able to identify what KPI, what key performance indicator was important to them, so that you could provide them those few numbers that they needed so that they could feel like they were getting value for your services. And so that's wonderful. That's perfect. So
and that being said, the Profit First came really helpful there. I'll tell you something called Profit First, what I implement for some of my clients, where it's pretty much a cash management system. I call it a cash management system of how can you pay yourself first, We were doing that, I think, and I implemented that first in my practice. Okay, so sorry, I'm probably taking away a question.
No, you're doing great. This is wonderful. Keep going.
What I did was I kind of got introduced to Profit First by a prospective client. Right, the prospective client came in and he kind of mentioned a little bit about Profit First and stuff, and I was like, oh wow, this is pretty cool. Did a little bit of digging. Heard Mike McCullough, he's the author of the book, and then Ron, he's the head honcho there with Mike, and kind of talked to them a little bit, and I got really interested. So I joined Profit First as a professional there. One of the requirements they have is you've got to implement Profit First in your business first, right? I did that. I did actually implement Profit First in my business. I implemented that in my wife's business, and we just loved it. We just loved it. We were seeing it's a reality. People look like entrepreneurs. The first thing what they do when they wake up, they go to their bank account. And I was a living proof of that. My wife's a living proof of that. www.chase.com is the first thing what she does. She kind of wants to find out how much is the bank account going up. So Profit First actually uses that psychology, uses that mindset to kind of make sure that business owners are still growing and still making profit first, paying themselves first, and paying every other expense afterward. So we started doing that, and I'll tell you, that is something which the clients who are doing it have been just loving it. Now, again, there's some people who are not successful because they were just not, they were not disciplined enough to actually follow it.
So first of all, your enthusiasm for Profit First is obvious. I mean, just the fact that you embraced it. I like how you were introduced to it, because I think that's how many accounting professionals are actually introduced to Profit First, is through a client. They read a book, they're intrigued by the principles. Hey, can you help me implement this in my business? You're my accountant. This is dealing with the numbers. Help me get these bank accounts set up and manage the funds accordingly. So you took that, you did your research. Obviously, Mike McCallow's great book. He has a number of other great books that you can read. But then working with Ron, phenomenal man. Ron is, he's kind of the face in front of it all as you implement it. But working with your clients to help them actually then see how you can do this after you've actually applied these principles in your own company. I mean, you're in a position where you're practicing what you're preaching, in other words, right?
Exactly. Otherwise, I'll be just another person telling everybody else what to do. And why are you not using it? Oh, sorry, it's too tough. Right? It can't work that way. So no, that's, and Profit First is really good at that. Like the organization is very good, where I don't think, like, you've got to do it for yourself, right? Like, that's how they certify you. Otherwise they don't certify you. So you can't tell anybody else that you're a Profit First professional if you've not done it yourself. And that's perfect. So I did it for me and my wife both.
Very good. Very good. So with Profit First, I think you're actually going to help answer this next question, which is, you as an accounting firm offering the services that you do saw the need to actually offer something more to become relevant or remain relevant for your clients, to stay cutting edge, so that you weren't just providing merely accounting services, you were more consultative with your engagement with your clients, and Profit First filled that void. Could you explain maybe how that changed your working relationships with your clients, maybe even increased the revenue that you were earning per client?
Yes, I'll be very honest. It was a little difficult in the beginning, right? It was a little beginning, because what was happening was, unknowingly, because of my consulting background, I was giving away some of this stuff already, right? I was already giving all that stuff away. So it was a little bit of a retraining required for some of the clients. So I was guilty to give it to, like, and they kind of, tell you that, okay, give it to your first 3 clients for free, just so that we can kind of see how this works, right? So I did that, and these were my low bookkeeping clients, low paying bookkeeping clients, which I gave them to. They got used to it. So it was a little bit of a curve from that standpoint, but now I've got to a point where it is truly increasing revenue in my practice, because now I can charge them as a consultant / CFO versus not as a bookkeeper / accountant, right? It's just that when somebody calls, again, maybe it's personal, but somebody calling me a bookkeeper, I nothing against bookkeepers, but it's just that it's become such a commodity, right? It's become such a commodity that when somebody calls somebody who's doing Profit First as a bookkeeper, I just feel this devalues the whole thing. So I kind of train them again to the clients, like, listen, what we do is more consultative. What we do is for your benefit, to grow your business. And I've been able to do that with my existing clients. And my new clients, thankfully, just with the marketing, what I'm doing, with the outreach, what I'm doing, already know that this is not a regular accounting guy. If I just want a bunch of P&L and balance sheet produced, he's probably not the person. If you want something like, where he's actually going to help me grow my business, then he's it, right? So that's how Profit First has kind of helped me from that standpoint, because now I have that branding.
Yeah, yeah. Now, one of the things that is important here is the fact that you were able to then distinguish yourself in your area as being a premier accounting firm. You weren't just providing the traditional bookkeeping services. You weren't just generating the financial reports. You were literally engaging with your clients with a much more valuable service, which is the Profit First program. And it does have that sexy appeal of, you're going to actually help me with profit. I mean, of the things that we can be working on, profit is a priority, and you're going to help me with that. That's amazing. You're saying things that the client isn't hearing from the other accounting professionals. You're doing things that the other accounting professionals aren't doing. You're uniquely providing a service that is allowing you to get paid more, and definitely be seen more than just as a bookkeeper, accountant, CPA, but that's trusted strategic consulting advisor. Yeah.
So that's helped me a lot. And then what also has done is taken me away from one part, which we all CPAs have to. There's no choice, but we do a lot of tax preparation. So, but ever since I started my business, I was very convinced that I did not want to become 1,000 tax return filing practice. I file a max on a good year. We file 100 tax returns. That's all we do. We don't do anything more than that. I have very regular days and nights during tax time, and I know a lot of my colleagues don't have that luxury. So I made a conscious choice of that, and Profit First was a very natural progression in that direction, because it gets me away from having to do $300-400 tax returns to make sure that I can actually eat. So that's where I like getting into this, and it kind of was like, I worked for Accenture, I worked for FTI Consulting. It's very we were always used to doing cutting edge stuff, and this was just very naturally there, So that's kind of helped me a lot.
I love it. So just before we leave Profit First, let me ask, what more could you say about the experience interacting with them from either a training point of view or a coaching support point of view? Is there anything more you'd like to add on that before we move on?
100%. The Facebook group, awesome, right? Like the people whom you can meet on that Facebook group is just, I don't know. I mean, it's just that I almost feel that they don't want anybody and everybody to become a Profit First professional, which is great. And I think Ron probably does a great job of, even though he doesn't tell us that, but I bet you he's sifting out people who should not be in the program. So I feel that, and I can see that in the Facebook group, because we all can communicate with each other. We ask all these questions, which typically we would not ask on a public forum. It's very supportive group there. So that's one from a support standpoint. They have every month there's a call. I think now I've gone past it, but when I joined, I got like 7 or 8 kind of onboarding calls, which was very helpful. Erin, who's my personal coach, she's super duper nice. My Scalise is amazing. Ron himself is very good. I mean, it's just that the entire organization, from a support standpoint, truly they're there for us, I feel. I mean, I've got that feeling for that. That being said, one thing what they've started is Profit First Accountability Group. So I'm a part of that, where I am with 2 other individuals. Our group is a little smaller. Typically there are 5, but we're 3 individuals together. And every week, every 4 weeks, we have a task which we need to kind of accomplish. It could be Profit First related, or it could be non-Profit First related. And we have a task to be completed, and there's a structure in the accountability groups. I was a part of a lot of the other different groups like these, which kind of fall apart after, a month or 2, they fall apart. This one, 3 of us are really getting along well because of the structure which was provided to us. And then what happens is, once your task is complete, somebody from the home office is basically coming in and then giving us tips and, kind of telling us what to do. So that's the other support piece. And then the marketing aspect of it and all the other things which they provide us in the Profit First University is very helpful. So overall, I think from a support standpoint, it's worth every penny, right? It's worth every penny. And it's just, this is where I look at it, right? Mike's a brand, okay? If I can pay a certain amount of money per month and get a brand where I can have Mike's bio on my website, and actually he's on my website, and he's the lead strategist is what the title he has, right? And he's on my website. So anybody goes to my website, sees him, sees he's the author of the book, guess what? Instant credit right there. And that's where I feel, so I don't know if that answers your question, but that's pretty much, I think it's, there's a lot of support.
Well, one of the things that I think is really helpful here is you're helping people realize that not only is this something that you're implementing in your own business and then also taking to your clients as a service, but you're getting the support from them so that you can work on your business as well. You're literally getting that support network, that peer group, you're getting the support from headquarters, you're getting all these things that are above and beyond just you servicing your clientele. It's actually helping you personally.
100%. There's no question about it. To the point that sometimes I really feel bad that there are so many resources out there and I'm not utilizing everything. Mm-hmm. So it's almost, it's the other way around. Like you're not looking for resources. The resources are looking for you now. It's like, listen, use me. I'm right here. It's amazing. And my office manager, she helps me with doing all the marketing stuff. And she says, listen, my job becomes so much easier because I don't have to hunt for content, right? Content's right there. I just have now tweak it a little bit so that it kind of customizes to our philosophy and our kind of personality.
Exactly. Completely agree with that. That's true. The marketing resources and assets that they provide as a profit first professional are tremendous. That's really good. So let me ask this. Advice. What advice would you give to an individual who's interested in actually starting their own accounting business? Much like you've already accomplished, they're in that stage of beginning. What advice would you give them now that you're where you're at now?
The advice what I would give is the advice what I got, which I kind of didn't implement, unfortunately, but I'll tell you that one again. Like the advice one is, right, if you feel good, and this is number one advice, irrespective of profit first, tax planning, tax preparation, whatever it is, whatever you want to do, right? If you don't feel right that you don't want to work with this client, do not work with that client. I've got burnt so many times initially in my first 2-3 years that I've taken up because the dollar number was great, right? If somebody was ready to pay me $2,000 a month, I'm just going to take them just because, hey, listen, I don't have a single client, $2,000 a month, perfect, let's do it. Don't make that mistake because that's a very, very expensive mistake in the end, I feel. So that's definitely one thing. Two is we accountants don't like, so the second advice I'll say that we accountants don't like typically getting out of our screen. We love watching a screen. We don't like talking to people. And the more you can talk to people, I think the more successful your practice will be. Keep connections, go out for lunches, go out for coffee, like just be out of the office and develop systems and processes in place that the accounting is done by your trusted staff and trusted team members. And then you can develop and grow the business. And that's where I feel that you're going to be more successful. Now, some of you might really like doing accounting and taxes. Then you can do complex tax plans. You can partner up with people like me who love going out and talking to people. So you can definitely do that. But at the same time, don't underestimate. People are not going to come to you because you're the greatest accountant in the world. People are going to come to you if they trust you. And the only way they can trust you is if you talk. That's it.
That is excellent advice. In just a simple word, what we refer to it as is becoming an accountrepreneur. It's recognizing as much as you love the accounting and doing the work and you love the numbers, producing the reports, at the end of the day, it's still a people business. You have to get out there, get to know your clients, and it comes down to trust. As their accountant, you're going to know more about their business than perhaps their spouse, their colleagues in their office, the employees of the company. You know more about that business than probably even the owner themselves. And so they have to trust you with all those numbers. And so it's not just, can you do the work? It's, are you someone I enjoy working with and am willing to pay to do this? So
exactly. And that personality has to come up. So what I used to do a lot of phone call, sales call, right? Like I call it sales call, but phone calls, meetings. Now I've started doing a lot more video. I've just started doing a lot more video. People need to see you. They're opening up their most intimate details, which some of the spouses don't know what we know, right? And we've got to make sure that they can trust us, and they cannot trust. I don't think if 20 years ago, the accountant which was there, I don't know if those will be able to survive today. I personally don't think so. With the whole social media thing going crazy, we've got to make sure that we can get our personality out there and convince the client that, yes, this is the right person. And obviously, you've got to be that person, right? You can't just tell them, trust me, trust me, trust me. But you've got to act what you're saying. And then at the same time, the only way you can do that is you get in front of them. With this virtual world, it's impossible to get in their offices, but video is a great medium. What I do is I actually use this product called Dubb, D-U-B-B.
Mm.
And it actually embeds video in email, so you can report stuff and then you can actually send that. So a lot of my sales process, when I speak to them, I still send them another video after that. Just kind of, so just two things, by the way. Saves you on, and a lot of people want a proposal, right? They say, hey, can you please send me a proposal of, what are you going to provide? You told me all these nice things, but can you send me a proposal? Now think about it. Yeah, you can have a standardized proposal, but then what I do is I literally talk to the clients and I understand what they need. Now, I don't have a standardized proposal for everybody. So it would waste 1 or 2 hours every time. I would have to create a proposal and send them. Easier way, more personal way could be just record a video of what we actually spoke and we send it to them. And that's it. And then the proposal could be 2 lines, right? Hey, listen, option 1 is this much, option 2 is this much. Look at the video. I'm going to explain to you exactly what those involve.
So share again what that service is, just so that everyone can get that.
Dubb, D-U-B-B. Dubb is what the product is called, but there are many out there. There's Bonvoy, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Bonjour, sorry. Bonjour is the other one. Dubb is what I use, D-U-B-B.
I think Loom is also another one.
Loom is another one.
Yep.
Loom is another one. So it's just anything with, and goes back to my technology background. I just love using technology. It's just so much fun to use all those things to get in front of clients. And example, we had a tornado in Dallas Sunday night, right? It was pretty devastating.
Yes.
Some of my clients got affected, unfortunately. But it was a simple thing. Like what I did was I created a Dubb video, right? Tell them how much I truly wish them that they're all okay. And if they need me, they can reach me. A simple video like that. And I sent it out to them. It was great. I mean, I've got responses back. Yes, thank you. But I'm sure each one of them kind of appreciated that, just because an email would be great. Like, hey, Linda, how you doing? I hope everything is okay. That's perfect. It's better than nothing. But at least a video would be even better.
Well said. I actually agree with video. That's why we're doing this via video. It's a lot more personable, I think, than actually just hearing it. Simply seeing us is a lot more advantageous. 100%. In fact, I think we're both good looking. So how about that?
Thank you.
All right. So here's the next thing. The future of accounting. You've kind of touched on a little bit through this, but where do you see the future of accounting in the coming years?
Future of accounting is automation. That's what I feel it's going to be. It's going to be automation. It's going to be a lot of the mundane things, recording of transactions and producing financial statements are going to be automated. We have no choice. We've got to accept that. So the sooner we as accounting firms kind of adapt to it, the better it's going to be. So, but going back to profit first, going back to the one page report which I created on the phone, those are going to be the things which is going to differentiate us. So the future is going to be automation on the mundane things which anybody and everybody can do. Either technology is going to do it, or either somebody in India, Philippines, or somewhere else, they're going to do it, right? Somewhere where the labor is going to be cheap. What we're going to do is we're going to tell our clients how to be successful in their financial lives. And that's what the future is. And if we can't do that, we might as well just give up right now. And I think most of us can do it. We have the education to do it. We have the intelligence to do it. If you've become a CPA, if you've become an EA, if you're running an accounting firm, you've got the intelligence already. It's just that we don't know how to sell those services. And I think some of these organizations, what we spoke during this talk, it definitely pushed you towards that. I did not know it. I basically learned from those experts who've done that in the past. And that's what I feel the future is. The future is consulting. The future is more how much can you automate? And you could be the other end of the spectrum, right? You could be somebody who could be providing $200 a month bookkeeping service, but you've automated everything. It costs you $20 a month or $40 a month. Great. That's a great business too. I'm just not that good at technology. So I'm just going to I'm going to go to the other end of the spectrum where I'm going to, do outsource CFO, outsource controller kind of work, where giving them true advice. And I'm talking to them about the more and more, I think the accountant, way back, right? 30, 40 years ago, I talked to my uncles and they said, listen, our accountant knew everything about us. That's where it was. Then it kind of changed, I feel, a little thing where accounting became just a commodity. And now I think it's going back to where the true accounting function is going to become a commodity, but then we're still going to like we're the quarterback for getting them life insurance. We're the quarterback for financial planning. We're the quarterback for anything finance related, anything with, hey, listen, anything which relates to bank account numbers or whatever, they're going to call us. And we better be that person. You can't do that if you have 1,000 tax returns to do. you can only do that if you have 50, 60 clients, or if you have a system in place which takes you, yeah, sure, now you have 1,000 clients, but you have a system in place, you have a structure in place. And that's where I feel that the future is going to go.
Very good, and very well said. I liked how you described that, because one of the things that I think is encouraging about what you said is that the accountant still has a place in this profession. There's still a place for us. And the way I would add to it is going to these different conferences that I attend, whether it be Sage, XeroCon, QB Connect, AccountX, wherever it is. Whenever you go as an accounting professional to these conferences, you're seeing that the technology is evolving, just as you've described, to provide this artificial intelligence that's going to automate the transactions, the recording of all the debits and credits and such. But what I think the accountant is going to be able to do for the client is the client's going to be able to say, Mr. and Mrs. Accountant, what plugin, what software, what tools should I be using to track, record, and document these things that's also going to help me more quickly, real time, get back the information I'm needing so that I can make more intelligent business decisions. And so they're turning to the accountant still to know what to do next, the bookkeeper to implement and manage those systems, because they don't want to do it. They want to run their business. The accountant, the bookkeeper, the CPA, they're going to be the ones actually knowing which tool, which platform to use to do all of this. But then this is where the big part comes into play. The business owner still needs the accountant, bookkeeper, CPA to come in and interpret, help them understand the information and now apply it, because it's still in a language they're not familiar with. The language is still accounting. And so you need to be that interpreter to help them actually then utilize this information to make more intelligent business decisions as the owner of the company. So I love how you described it. That was very well said.
Yep. And the problem, I think, what's happening with this whole litigation, kind of legal world, what we live in, is we accountants have got really scared about making some of the decisions for the business owners. The business owners have to make the decisions, don't get me wrong. But what I've kind of got a feedback is like, listen, all this stuff is really fancy. What should I do? Just tell me that. Like, what should I do? I do not know what to do, right? And that's where we still have a place. That's where we still can help them make some of these decisions easy for them. That's where it makes us different a little than the attorneys, because the attorneys kind of just tell you, hey, if you do this, this happens. If you do this, this happens, right? A lot of my clients tell me, just tell me what to do. Don't give me like the negatives and the positives, right? If I could do that, I would have not hired you in the first place. So that's where I feel that we're still relevant. And I think the accountants are a little different than attorneys from that standpoint, that we can still do that for them.
Yes. Yeah, one of the things that we emphasize here is becoming what's called a profit and growth expert. It's this idea right here. And that's exactly what it's all about, because it complements this, which is becoming a certified profit first professional. These together help us actually with confidence consult and work with our clients as trusted advisors. This is exactly what we're talking about here. So this is very well said. So what I'd like to just know, Mitul, is there anything more you'd like to share or add to this? This has been a wonderful conversation.
No, I mean, this has been great. Whatever I can help, if anybody wants to reach out, they want any kind of information I can help out on, I'm all about, hey, listen, let's all grow together. So anything I can help out on, technology, anything profit first, anything accounting, whatever it is, right? I've been running my firm for the past 5 years now, and, kind of growing. I'm in the process of acquiring another firm. So, kind of seen a lot, and I'm more than happy to kind of share my experience. At the same time, I'm sure I'm going to learn a lot from whoever I speak to. So yes, I mean, if anybody wants to reach out, just want to have a chat, I'm more than happy to do that always.
I love it. Love it. Thank you for that offer. What I'll do is I'll actually include in the description with this video, basically his contact information, his website, so that you can see where he's at. I'll put some information also about some of the things that he shared, which were specifically things about profit first, for example, and I'll embed those down in the description so you can do that. But Mitul, thank you so much for taking the time to share this information with all of us. I think what you've done is really enlightened a few people. I'm sure a lot of people will find that this has been very helpful, inspiring, and educational. So that's great. But what I'd like to do is just end with this. If it's about accounting, it is universal. So we're happy to obviously offer that. Make the most of it, and everybody have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you, Roger, so much. Thank you.